All right, Facebook, welcome. Zoom, welcome. Instagram, welcome. If you guys are watching, this is once again my weekly wealth creation course. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. If this is your first time ever tuning into one of these, what I do is every Friday I do a free course and I cover topics on personal finances. And the purpose of this course, the intention behind it, is to address a lot of the topics and areas that we don't get communication and education about. Okay. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm the owner of a company called Wealth Dynamics, and we help families become financially educated, wealthy, and help them navigate their economic futures with certainty, so that they are able to, achieve financial independence and freedom for themselves, but also for the communities around them. And like I mentioned, I do these courses every week, right? And this is our fourth week on taboo money topics that usually we don't talk about, that don't get covered. Maybe we were told not to talk about them. And so I'm going to talk about them. We're going to communicate about them. We're going to get them out in the open. We're going to get an understanding of what's happening with these types of topics to make them not taboo anymore, right? Because as a kid, I was taught two things. I was taught, don't talk about money and don't talk to strangers. Okay. For a lot of you, I'm a stranger, right? So that already violates rule number one. And we're also talking about money, which violates rule number two. Okay, so what I want to do is create an environment tonight where we can discuss money topics that we maybe have not had communication on, bad decisions, different things that might have come up on money that just never really got addressed, never really got handled. And we've kind of always had this maybe barrier around talking and discussing them. And the reason why I want to solve these is they cause future problems, right? A problem that I had in the past relating to finances that I didn't confront and handle and take care of is going to pop up in the future as an issue. It's going to stick with me. That's what I've found. My experience has been that it follows me and it follows me. And a lot of times it gets repeated simply because I didn't handle it, right? So as a kid, a little bit about my background. My parents got divorced over money. I watched us lose our house. I watched my mom get her car repoed. I was homeless for a period of my life. And at 17, I quit on money straight up. I was like, I'm done with it. I'm not interested in this. It's only caused problems. It's only caused painful situations. So I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm going to opt out of the money system and just not play that game. What I found rudely was that the money thing didn't go away. Just because I wasn't playing the money game didn't mean that the economy stopped, didn't mean that I didn't have bills and expenses. It didn't mean that the economy and money wasn't going to drag me kicking and screaming the rest of my life, whether I wanted to participate in it or not. So I had to really confront, okay, well, I can't not participate. My options are denial or wealth. Denial is 90% of America, right? Pretending like nothing bad is happening. You can even watch it right now. It's sad and funny at the same time. We just had this whole COVID thing happen. 3 months ago, the world shut down. Everything is starting to shut down again. A lot of us are not even looking at how can I make sure I don't get hit next time, right? That's what's happening is we just don't confront these things. They never become a solution. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. So before we get started, guys, a couple of ground rules. Number one, this is a place for positivity only. We're talking about money and improving, and we're talking about helping and constructing our finances. So if you've got negative stuff, this is not the feed to spill that on. Go do something else. Like this is not your feed. You're not welcome if you're going to be negative. And basically, the entire idea behind this is education, right? It's hard for us to become educated on things when there's somebody in the comments that's being negative or antagonistic, because we feel like we might become the butt end of that communication. So we just don't speak. We don't share what we're thinking. We don't ask questions because we're afraid of that. So I want to make sure that's not here. If you see that, call that person out, kick them off the feed, whatever you got to do. The other thing is, if I go through anything tonight that doesn't make sense to you, let me know. Feeling like your eyes are glazing over, you're disinterested, you're bored, you don't know what we're talking about, say something. Communicate. That's your responsibility, right? So if we're doing this course right now and I'm teaching about money, my role as the teacher, communicate education and do it in a simple way. Your role is the students. As a student, if you don't get something, you've got to speak up. This isn't high school and middle school where you're not supposed to learn anything. Like, my intention is for you to learn something, so speak up. Secondarily, if there's any words I say that you don't understand, look them up, figure them out, make sure you clear them up so you understand what we're talking about. And thirdly, if you have questions that you guys would like me to answer, drop those in the comments. Those can be general questions. Those can also be topics that you want me to cover tonight. Okay, again, this is taboo money topics. So topics that you would like me to address that maybe in your life haven't been addressed, that you know people are afraid to talk about, that people avoid. Right now, I do have my list here. We're going to finish it off. I created a list of all the taboo money topics that I could think of. We got through about 3/4 of the list. So we're going to finish that off tonight. And like I said, I'm welcome to any topics you guys would like to drop in the comments as well. So starting out on the list here, the first one we're going to talk about is unreliable money advice. Okay, unreliable money advice. Who has ever gotten unreliable money advice? Okay, show of hands, emojis, however you want to voice that. I have. Now, the problem with unreliable money advice is you don't know it's unreliable until you try it, right? So there's this little factor of like, you don't know until you followed it and you're like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have listened to that person. I shouldn't have followed that advice. That's the problem with unreliable money advice. You don't know it's unreliable until you know it's unreliable. At that point, you've already done it and you already are experiencing the negative effects of it. Okay, so what I want to pick apart here, unreliable money advice, what could that be? That could be advice from pundits on TV, the Dave Ramseys, the Sue Ormans of the world. That could be digital influencers. Okay, I just saw one the other day, a guy named Dan Locke, online billionaire. Dude just got evicted from his rented mansion in Vancouver for not paying his rent. Okay, that would be unreliable money advice. If I'm taking advice from that guy and I just found out he can't pay his rent, that's not good because I've been listening to his advice, right? So it could be from influencers, it can be from peers, it can be from teachers, it can be from parents, it can be from coworkers. It's basically getting someone else's opinion on money. Okay, now the problem with this is the word advice, if you go back to the root of that word, it actually does mean opinion. Okay, opinion means my personal viewpoint and what I think is true. Not objectively, factually true. It's what I think on the topic. So if I'm taking opinions from people on money, here's what we've got to communicate about. It means that I don't trust my own opinions. I'm going to say that again. If I'm at the point where I am taking other people's opinions on money, it means that by nature of that, I don't trust my own. That's not a good spot to be in. That means that I have done enough things with money that were wrong, illegal, irresponsible, stupid, whatever it might be, that I no longer trust myself. And I'm starting to reach to other people and ask them for what they think. Okay. And the problem with that is a lot of times you don't know. You don't know if they're in a better position than you are. Nobody sits down and shows you their balance sheet and shows you their financial statement before you get the financial advice. Okay. I've gotten advice from coworkers. I've gotten advice from employers. I've gotten advice from parents. I've gotten advice from other financial advisors. And so what I've got to look at here is, what am I really looking for when I'm looking for advice? Okay, what am I really looking for? If I'm asking somebody for advice, what am I really looking for? Prior to that, am I actually looking for something? Because a lot of financial advice that I've gotten in my life was unsolicited, meaning I didn't ask. Who's ever experienced that, where you have somebody just starting to tell you things about finances? Like, hey man, you should really check out, Bitcoin or Forex or whatever the craze is today. And you never asked them. Or they all of a sudden start telling you about how you should buy a house or you should do your 401k allocations. And you never asked their help or their opinion. They're just sharing. Okay, what I've got to confront there is, if I didn't ask for the advice and the advice is being given, that means that the person sharing the advice is sharing it with me to make themselves feel more right. Meaning they're in doubt. They're already uncertain. Otherwise, why would they have to enforce their viewpoint on me? Why would they need to make me think what they think unless they wanted to feel more right? So when I have that person, I've learned to realize that if somebody starts sharing unsolicited financial advice with me that I didn't ask for, I never told them I needed help, they're just starting to give me advice, I usually take that as an indicator that they're wrong. They know they're wrong, that I shouldn't listen to them. Everything they say, I should probably do the opposite of. because it's this thing of like, when I go somewhere, I'm going to tell my friends to go there too, so I feel better about my own decision. When I buy something, I'm going to tell my peers that they should buy the same thing, so I feel more validated in the purchase that I made. When I make a financial decision that I'm uncertain of, I would share it with other people to reinforce what I'm doing, so I feel more correct. Because it's one of those things of, okay, well, if I go down, at least all of them are going down with me. It's not just me anymore. I'm not just in isolation. So when that person starts sharing unsolicited, that's exactly what that means to me. They have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They actually think that they're making a financial mistake and they're trying to drag me in for their own validation. And I'm not going to play that game. Now, if I did ask for advice, the first thing I'm going to look for, what are their results in that category? What are their results in that category? If I'm asking for advice on investing, what are their investment results? What do they have invested? How long have they invested? Have they lost money? How much? Let me see what they've got. Otherwise, I'm not going to take their advice. Okay, if I'm asking for advice on paying off debt, okay, has this person ever paid off debt? I can't get debt advice from somebody that's never paid off debt. Or I can't get debt advice from somebody that's currently in debt. Right? Like, this is all stuff I've got to look at. That's the part I've got to confront, right? So if I'm asking for advice, I have to look at their statistics. What are they doing in that category? And if it's not successful, I can't listen to what they have to say. It can be my mom, it can be my dad, it can be my brother, my sister, my coworker, my freaking best friend in the world. If they don't have results, I'm not going to listen to their advice. Okay? And let's remove this from money. Let's put this on a different subject. Let's talk about physical health. Let's say that I was trying to get a six-pack. Okay, I was trying to get a six-pack. Let's say that I've got a buddy that he's got all these ideas on how to get a six-pack, but he's never had one. Should I take my buddy's advice? No, I shouldn't, because he's never had a six-pack. He doesn't know how to do it. Otherwise, he would do it and he would have it. Since he doesn't, it means I can't listen to him. His opinion is invalid on that topic. Okay, so what is the solution here? The solution here is, really, I shouldn't be taking advice. I should not be in a position where I'm willing to become a follower of somebody else's viewpoint or opinion. I need to go study data for myself. So what that means is, let's say that I'm in debt and I'm looking at how do I get out of debt, and I'm starting to feel like I need advice, right? Because I've got some uncertainties. I'm not sure. I maybe had mistakes in the past. It didn't work out. I shouldn't ask someone else what to do. Okay, the reason why is that's not repeatable. I don't have a solution. You guys have heard the quote, you can give a man a fish or you can teach him to fish. In the moment I'm asking for advice, I am asking for a fish. I'm not asking someone to teach me to fish. I'm asking for a fish. It's not going to last. I'll end up back in the same spot and I won't know how to get out, because next time won't be the same as this time. So I've got to look at data. So if I'm trying to get out of debt, I should go study, what is debt? Do I even understand what debt is? I need to go look up debt. I need to go look at the different types of debt. I need to look at interest rates. I need to look at term lengths. I need to look at payments. I need to look at unsecured versus secured. I need to go study debt until I have a conceptual understanding of debt where I get it. I understand debt now. Okay. The next thing I need to do is I need to take this newfound knowledge that I have and I need to apply it to my debt. Let me go look at my credit cards and figure out, with my new knowledge, what's going on here. What about my car loan? What about my mortgage? What about my student loans? Right? I did a meeting with a client today where we looked at about $40,000 in credit card debt, and we put it on a calculator and we looked at, if we pay it off with the sacred account, here's how it's going to pay off. Here's how long it'll take. Here's how many months you're going to be in. Here's how much interest you'll save. All of this stuff. Okay, but I didn't give them my opinion. I wasn't like, I think you should do X, Y, Z. I said, okay, great. Let's look at the numbers. Great, here's the numbers. Here's what happens if we do this. Here's what happens if we do that. Which one do you guys think is the best deal for you and your family right now? Based on what you know, what do you think we should do? And I put it back in their court, right? So that's really like the solution to avoiding unreliable advice, unreliable financial advice. Okay, I've got to have that, like, and it's okay to let yourself know that somebody has unreliable financial advice. Okay, there's nobody in my family, in the nicest way possible, there's nobody I am related to that I'll take financial advice from. Love them to death. I will help them if anything comes up. I will do whatever is needed, except for take financial advice from them, because I look at the stats and I'm like, yeah, that's not where I want to be. Those aren't products that I want in my life, right? So It's okay to think that. It's okay to be like, okay, my mom is great at cooking and bad at money. My dad is great at, raising children, bad at finances. So maybe I don't take advice from him on that topic, right? My brother is awesome at sports, maybe business, but not the best at money. So that's not a topic that I'm going to take advice from him on. It's okay to think that. And the reason why I share that is there's this little bit of guilt. It's almost a loyalty factor that a lot of us deal with on this kind of topic where we're like, it's my mom, I should listen. It's my brother, I should listen. No, you shouldn't. Just because you freaking came out of the same woman as the kid doesn't mean you got to listen to him. Like that's an illogical pathway of thinking. I've got to look at, okay, where are their stats? Do I actually want those stats for myself? If I don't listen. It doesn't matter if we came from the same person. It doesn't matter if she bore me. It doesn't matter if we went to the same fourth grade class together. It doesn't matter if we played football together. None of those things relate to finances. Okay. Bottom line. Okay. So that's our topic there. Unreliable advice. Cross that one off the list. Off the list. You guys see that? It's off. By the way, if you guys have topics, like I said, drop them in the comments if you would have topics that you want me to cover here. The next one I'm going to talk about is willing financial illiteracy. What does that mean? Okay, what do I mean by willingness with financial illiteracy? It means somebody that doesn't know about money and doesn't try to know about money because they don't want to know about money because it's easier to just not. Okay, I have been there before. Who's ever felt that way where you're like, man, if I figure out about money, now there's all of this stuff that I have to confront and take responsibility for in my life. And that's a lot of work and a big mess. And it doesn't seem like something I really want to do. So I'm just going to stick it off to the side, not think about it, not talk about it, just pretend it's not there, right? I've done that several times. Okay, that used to be my go-to move, right? When a bill was late, solution, pretend it didn't exist. When they call, straight to voicemail, right? Or when I didn't understand something, just nod my head and act like I did, and then never think about it again. That was what I would do, right? That is called willing illiteracy, meaning I am causing myself to be illiterate. I'm 100%, like Kenny says, head buried in the sand. Okay, so let's communicate about that. I want to go ahead and get out there. Everyone does that. Literally everyone does that on some topic. Doesn't matter where they're at in life. There's some topic where people do that. And the reason why I want to share that is a lot of times we have this willing illiteracy. Okay. And that's more of like a protective mechanism for me. Like I don't want to have to deal with the work and the hassle. And so I just stay in denial and stay in the area of not knowing. But then there's the other factor of like, I can't let other people know I don't know because now I'll be the idiot. And I don't want to be the idiot. So I'm not going to share with them that I don't know about this thing. So I'm going to be willingly illiterate and I'm going to be defensive of it. Okay. I call it protecting stupid. Okay. I'm going to be stupid and I'm going to protect being stupid. So others don't know that I'm being stupid, but I'm going to keep being stupid. Okay. And I say that lightly. I'm not picking on anybody. I've been there. Right. And so what we have to communicate about here is everyone does that. There's no reason to be afraid of somebody. You don't need to be afraid to let your friends know that you don't know what your pay stub says, right? I'm talking about when we all know what I mean. On the W-2, you get the pay stub, all those freaking FICA and Med and social and OSDI, like nobody knows what that stuff means. Your friends don't either, right? So there's this illiteracy level because really I should know what those things mean because they're coming out of my paycheck. They're going to them instead of me. That's money that I'm losing. It would be important that I know what those things mean, right? We can agree on that, but I don't because that would be too much work. Really, it's not. I could Google what does OASDI mean. I could Google what does whatever Medicare or federal income tax acronym they're using. I can Google all that stuff, but at the time I'm like, no, it's too much work. It's easier to not know, so I'm going to continue not knowing. Right? So I've got to confront that. That's a decision that I made, a decision to be illiterate. Because a lot of times what happens is we forget we made that decision, right? And then we'll get convinced that we actually don't know. And then it becomes this challenge, this barrier that we have. But it's like, I had the idea in the first place of I'm at a fork in the road. I could know or not know. If I want to know, I'll go this way. If I want to not know, I'll go this way. I don't want to know, so I'm going to go this way. That's the decision that we made in the moment. Then we forgot that we made that decision. So we're all the way down the road of not knowing. And we're like, man, this is hard. Like, this road is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. This is a tough road. And we forget, well, we made a decision and we could have gone the other way. All I've got to do is go back and go the other way now. Right? But we forget about that. And so then it becomes effort, and it actually becomes something that we become the effect of. Things start happening to us on that line because we forgot it was our idea not to know in the first place. And then we become convinced that it's unknowable and we really don't know, and it's a problem, and this thing that's taking over our lives and harming us, when really we just have to go back to, oh yeah, I remember when I was looking at my pay stub and I didn't know what OASDI stood for, and I decided I didn't care, and I just have to go back to that now and look up that acronym and decide I do care. And now I can start knowing. So that's the first thing we've got to confront. I made the decision not to know. The second thing I've got to confront, everyone is doing it. And I can be the idiot for 5 seconds to say, hey, I don't know what this means, and maybe have people pick on me. Or I can be the idiot for the rest of my life by actually not knowing, by actually never getting that information. Okay, so that's what I want to handle on it. So here's the solution. Here's the solution. The solution lies in this simple truth. Nothing is unknowable. There's not a single thing in this world, especially pertaining to finances, that is unknowable. The reason why finances at a basic level is just math. It's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. We learned that in what? I think I started learning my times tables in like 1st or 2nd grade, right? Stick dollar signs in front of it, and that's all stuff that I already know. So that's not unknowable. The rest of it is just words people made up. We talked about the pay stub as a joke. All of those acronyms are literally just the first letter of a word. So I can figure out, what is the word? This is the first letter of the word. What is the phrase that is being acronymed in this case? If I don't know what those words mean, I just have to figure out, oh, it's shit the government made up. Their terminology that the government made up and put on my paycheck. Let me go Google that. Let me look it up on dictionary.com. Now all of a sudden I know what the words mean. I know what the acronym is. I understand the dollar amounts because I know the basic math of it. Now I'm not outside of the knowledge zone now. I'm in the knowledge zone and I have control, and it's knowable. That's the solution to this kind of stuff. So when I see willing illiteracy, people that don't want to know about money because it's just easier not to, really it's like the fear factor of like, I don't want to have to handle this tough thing. I have fear or laziness or whatever it might be. And those are not like high energy levels to live at. Paper Chase and Donny, get off the stream, man. We got some negativity in the comments. One more reminder, guys, this is a positive feed. So if you've got negative garbage, go play Fortnite, go do something else. Like, this is not your stream, so go somewhere else. This is for people that are positive and productive. So if you're a negative person and you've got negative energy and negative comments, just leave. Good talk. So on that line, when I see somebody that doesn't know something, that's somebody that they're having fear or laziness or some sort of like negative emotion about an experience or an idea. And that's really the starting point. And if they knew it, they wouldn't have it. Who's ever had that experience where you were scared of something until you knew what it was? Okay, you knew what it was and then it made sense. And then you're like, great, this is fine now. I understand. And then you didn't have the same anxiety, right? So that's something that I really wanted to cover. And that would be my solution there. Now, the next one on my list, this one is big. I want to hit. This is living your finances by your parents' wishes. Okay, everybody has parents. All of us have parents. Some of us know our parents. Some of us don't know our parents. We all have parents, or we all have parental figures, right? People that raised us, they mentored us. We've seen their behaviors. And we kind of maybe model our lives after them. We look up to them. And so that's something, as we grow up, we start to model those behaviors ourselves and do those things. That's great in most cases, except for money. Okay, with money, most stuff is learned by observation. As a kid, I don't see the things that my parents are telling me. I see the things that they're actually doing. So when I see my parents doing something, I'm usually going to end up doing that thing. Okay, I'm usually going to end up copying them in some way, shape, or form. I did that with debt. My parents had debt all the time. And so I grew up with debt because that was a normal thing, right? And so that was a behavior that I observed and started to apply in my own life. Now, here's the thing. I also grew up in a very religious family. Okay, in a very religious family at church, you respect your parents. You honor your mom and dad. Okay. And so for me, I had a little bit of that too, where I was like, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to not listen to my parents about money because that might be against my religion. Okay. All religion aside, that was just my viewpoint. That was the way that I thought, the way that I was raised. Right. And so what I want to point out here and communicate on is your parents didn't get educated on money either. And it's not their fault. So I don't want to make parents wrong, but nobody ever sat down with any of us really and said, hey, as a kid, there's this thing called money, just like there's this thing called gravity and oxygen, and you're going to have to deal with it for the rest of your life. So you might as well know what it is and how it works. Here's the basics, right? No one ever did that. I never got that talk from anybody. Like I never got that advice from someone as a kid. Your parents didn't either. Okay. So what they did is they learned from their parents. Now the problem is I'm 28, right? So I was born in 1992. My parents are in their 60s. My mom passed away, so she's not here anymore, but my dad is in his late 60s, early 70s. So he was born in the 1950s, right? So if I look at that, my dad was born in the 1950s. That means he was my age in the 70s. Okay. His parents, it was a totally different ball game. They were born in the early 1900s. They didn't have cars. They didn't have electricity. They didn't have credit cards. They didn't have a stock market. They didn't have bank accounts. Like there were, it was a very different world for them. So he observed what his parents did and tried to apply it best he could to his finances. For example, with my dad, a lot of it wasn't applicable because in the 1930s to the 1950s, everything changed with finances. The traditional 30-year mortgage came out, credit cards came out, the stock market became a thing. All of the world changed at that point. So the stuff he watched his parents do was stuff he's like, I should be doing this too, but he couldn't apply it in his own life because it was different tools, different methods, different systems, right? So he is trying to make sense of how do I do this stuff that my parents did with my things, and however good or bad he applied that, he got his results. If I'm watching him, I'm saying, okay, how do I apply what my dad did to my own finances? But today we have freaking Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and Forex and all of this stuff that we didn't have back then. My dad didn't grow up with any of that stuff. So I'm trying to apply myself today with data that he used back in the 70s. It doesn't work. It's different stuff. It doesn't make sense anymore, right? It's totally outdated. And so my point is here, your parents' wishes on like wanting you to buy a house, wanting you to go to college, wanting you to do certain things with your money, it's coming from a good intention. They're not trying to hurt you with your finances. Most parents would never do that. B, they don't have the viewpoint that you have. They don't know what goes on in your day-to-day life. And if they did, they might change their advice, right? And their advice might be different because now they can see all of these factors that you might have in your life that they didn't grow up with. Okay, so for me to blindly say, okay, my parents want me to buy a house, I should buy one because it's their best wishes, or my parents want me to go to college, I should go. Did you guys know when my dad was my age, college costed maybe $1,000? Maybe $1,000. Today, it's like 100 grand to go to college. My dad would not have spent 100 grand on school. I guarantee you that. He might not be thinking that when he says, I really want you to go to college. So for me to just blindly be like, okay, my dad said I should, he wants me to, I'm going to go to college now, and I'm going to borrow 100 grand and secure it with income that I don't have and be in debt for the rest of my life, that's not a good call, right? So that's what we've got to confront. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces there, okay? The solution here is this. Like goes back to communication. Communicate with your parents. Let them know what your goals and dreams are and what you're dealing with your finances and what your challenges are. Even if you're an adult, I know adults that are in their 30s and 40s and they're still living off of peer pressure from their parents. They're still making financial decisions based on what their mom and dad would think. I used to live in Minnesota, awesome state, by the way, but it's a very big farm area. There's where I was running my business. There's a lot of dairy farms, soy farms, like, wheat, corn. And the way that culture there works is the parents owned the farm. Usually it was paid off. Okay. And the kids will inherit the farm as long as they do what the parents say. So I would meet people that are freaking 30, 40 years old, still acting like they were a 15-year-old boy or girl, listening to everything their parents said because they were afraid they were going to not inherit the farm if they broke a rule. And so they would make the worst financial decisions. I was surprised. They would make the worst financial decisions just because they didn't want to piss off mom and dad and not get the farm. Okay, some of you might not have reality on that, but legit, that's how it was. Also, very religious families. So there's the same thing I had. Well, you're supposed to honor your parents, right? So the solution is communicate. And the other solution is in a very nice way, realize your parents are not financially responsible for you. They ain't going to pay your bills. If you take out the student loan, they're not going to help. When you buy the house, they're not paying your mortgage for you. Okay, if you do the 401k because they said to, when it crashes, they're not going to reimburse you the money. So keep that in the back of your mind and make your decisions based off of what you have to deal with. If I buy the house, what am I going to have to deal with? If I go to college, what am I going to have to deal with? If I lose money in my 401k, what are my consequences? Because they're not my parents' consequences. Okay. Second flow on this is some point my parents are going to need my help. Okay, meaning that if they end up in a nursing home or needing in-home care or end of life care or a medical bill, I'm the person that's going to be looked to cover that. I'm the person that's going to have to be there, whether I took their advice or not, to handle the situation with them, for them, on their behalf. Right. So I have to be thinking with that. They're not thinking with that. They're not thinking with, I'm going to be 90 in a diaper and not being able to pay my bills and my son's going to have to help me. They don't want to think about that. That's okay. They don't need to. I'm going to think about, I might be in that spot. And if I take their advice on this, even though it might feel really cool, like I'm making my parents happy, it's going to inhibit me from being there when they need me in the future. So I can't make that decision. Right. So that's what I would say is the solution there. And again, guys, there are reasons these are taboo topics. They're reasons why people don't communicate about this. Right. But I want to make sure you have solutions there, because I've met people that are in that situation and it's like, man, it's not a fun spot to be in. And this is stuff that can really help someone. Um, so what I want to do here, because I actually crossed all the items off my list. I want to go ahead and jump into the comments here and see what questions you guys have. Alex says parents gave a lot of bad advice on money. Mine did too. It's okay. Great. So if you guys have questions, topics that you'd like me to cover, what I want you to do is drop those in the comments. If you're on Instagram, throw those down in the comments. If you're on Facebook, throw those down in the comments. And if you're on Zoom, throw those down in the comments. I want to make sure we cover any questions you guys have. And let me see what Facebook has so far. By the way, thank you everyone for joining me. I love that these courses are on a Friday night, right? And I did this, I've been doing these for years now, every single Friday. I never charge for these. It's just something we do to help get financial education out there. And I always admire and acknowledge people that spend their Friday night learning about money. Okay, and I know it's like COVID, so you couldn't really be at the club and out doing stuff anyways. But even before that, like I've always had an admiration for people that are like, hey, instead of going out, instead of drinking, instead of going to do whatever, I'm going to learn on Friday. I think that is awesome, and I want to acknowledge all of you for that because that's a big deal. Okay, we have one from Edgar here, from Evo. Topic or suggestion. Uh, he says the taboo topic he wants me to cover is that wealthy people worship the devil to get rich. Um, man, that's a weird one, Evo. I'll go ahead and tackle it just for you, man. I actually have seen that where people are like, "Hey, if you're wealthy, you must be in the Illuminati." Um, I promise you guys, I'm not in the Illuminati. I would never, I would never join something called the Illuminati. That's hilarious. But I've seen that where people are like, man, if for someone to get wealthy, they had sold their soul to the devil, or they have no morals, or they have no ethics. And I want to address that actually, because I was thinking about that today, right? And I was looking at, there's people in the world that are wealthy and they do really good things, and there's people in the world that are wealthy and they do really bad things. And we talked about this a little bit last week, where there's also poor people that do really good things and poor people that do really bad things. Like, it doesn't matter that they're wealthy or not wealthy. There's just assholes and not assholes, right? So the thing that I want to point out is with wealth, when someone starts accumulating it, it happens in levels. When I first start accumulating wealth, it's for me, right? It's for me because I want to be financially free. So there's a certain amount that I'm trying to get to make that happen for myself and for my family. Okay. That's, passive income exceeding my expenses, my savings, and taxes. You don't have to worship the devil to do that. I know tons of people that have done that. I'm one of those people. I help clients do that. None of them are devil worshipers. So I'm doing it just for me at that point. And I want to get that point across. It's my personal financial freedom. Once I am personally financially free, what I've experienced and seen is some people will be comfortable and they'll stop pushing and they'll just enjoy life there. And that's okay. That's totally fine. That's up to them. That's their prerogative. So, they're satisfied, just like they went to the buffet, they ate, they're done, they're good, right? There's other people that they keep going. And I always studied and wondered, why do they keep going? And I would study athletes, the Wayne Gretzky's, the Michael Jordans, and I was trying to figure out, like, mentally, why would someone do that when they don't need to keep building wealth? Why do they keep building wealth? Why does John Rockefeller build a $380 billion net worth? Why does Jeff Bezos go to $170 billion net worth? He's financially free after a couple million. Like, let's be honest with ourselves, right? Why does he keep going? And what I realized is it's for power. At a certain point, it's not for me anymore. I'm doing it for power. Okay. Now, what I want the power for is a different question. Okay. Do I want the power to harm and suppress and injure? Or do I want the power to help and change and provide and produce? Okay. Those are two different individuals. Now, I want to point out that they were those same individuals before they were wealthy. So somebody that gets wealthy and decides that they want to harm and injure and suppress people, they were already that way. Before they ever had the money, they were already that way. You just didn't know about them. And they didn't have the means to fully exercise the things that they wanted to exercise as far as their goals and ambitions. Okay. Now, the guy that was good after he got wealthy and said, I want to help people and provide solutions and change and make the world a better place, he also was already that way. Okay. And he realized wealth was the answer to helping him achieve his real goals. That's like me. And that's like a lot of you. I look at the real things that I want to do in my life take way more money than I ever have. Like that's going to mean I'm going to need to be a billionaire to do a lot of the stuff that I want to do in my life. Okay. And I look at that as I want to help people and do good things. I'm going to need the money to do that. At a certain point, I already know I'm free. It's a power thing. I want the power to change. I want to impact. Okay. So we have the guy that wants to harm and the guy that wants to impact. The guy that wants to harm people, I don't know if he worships the devil. He may or may not. I don't know about that. If he does, that's weird. Makes sense. If he doesn't, same thing, right? The guy that doesn't have the harm factor and he wants to help, he's probably not a devil worshiper. This is one of those things where I can't even believe we're having this talk, but it's fun, so I'm going to keep doing it. But he's probably not a devil worshiper. A devil worshiper would not say, go get a bunch of money and then go help people. That doesn't make sense. That would be not the devil, right? That would be like the opposite of that. So that would be my thought on that. And really, like, Evo, I feel like that topic is that way because people want to have a reason not to have to do something. So they just make that a reason, the devil, so I'm not going to do it. All right, let me see what else we got in the comments here. I am checking Facebook first. So if you guys are on Instagram, I'll get to your comments here in just a second. I want to make sure I get through all of these Facebook comments here. I don't think I see any more Facebook. Yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions here so far. Oh, here's one. Okay, my client Jose says, how did you open up the topic of money with your wife? Do you set aside times aside to talk about this? That's a great question. So me and my wife, Lexi, we've been married going on 8 years now. So next month is our 8-year anniversary. We've been dating since 10th grade. So we've been together basically for, the majority of our lives. And so that's awesome. And with us, it was a little different, Josue, because I was in finances as a profession, right? So that was like something that we talked about because that was part of who I was and what I did and part of what she was doing as well. So, I mean, that was like an area that we definitely did have to confront and talk about and have communication on. What we do now is we have a time once a week where we sit down and we review our finances. We call it our financial planning, like income planning, expense planning, purchase orders, We review our last week's expenses. We play the 1 to 5 game and track our transactions. Like that's something we do every week together. And that's kind of just like an objective process. We just do that every week. It's an exercise we do. It's a habit, of routine that we have. And because we do it so frequently, we find that there's not a lot to talk about anymore at those meetings. It's very routine. We already are on the same page, but it didn't start that way. And so I would say, have those weekly meetings. And then we also walk our dogs together every night. That's a lot of the time where we have like downtime where we're not talking to clients, we're not doing business stuff, and we can kind of just talk about ideas and thoughts. And that's something that's been helpful for us on that note. So if you're married or dating or engaged and you're financially involved with that person, I would definitely suggest that. Let's see if we got any more comments here. All right, cool. I don't see anything else here. Let's check out Instagram. Let's see what we got on Instagram. Instagram, you guys are really a mixed bag with comments. I see some great ones sometimes, and I see some other ones, and I'm like, what does that mean? I'm just scrolling through, guys. I'm scrolling through the Instagram comments here. Lots of views on Instagram tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Nothing so far. Nothing so far. Okay, I got one here from Aaron. He says, can you rent and buy investment properties? Sure, you can rent somewhere and buy properties. You don't have to live in a property to buy property. So yeah, that's totally fine to do. What I think Aaron is saying is like, if he wanted to buy a duplex or a fourplex or an apartment complex, would he first have to live in a house and buy it in order to be able to get the other stuff? And no, you don't have to. You can rent and never live in a home if you don't want to and still go buy investment properties. Trenton says, what console do you play on? I'm not a video game guy, so I don't think I've played a video game since I was maybe 14 or 15. Griffin has a question. So Griffin says, can you talk about how to borrow out of the sacred account? So for those of you guys that don't know, the sacred account is a life insurance policy that you save money into and accumulate in order to buy back your debt and invest in things that pay passive income. So what you do with this account is you contribute money to it very much like you would with a 401k or a bank account, whatever. People are used to putting money into accounts. This is another one of those accounts you could put money into. This account, it grows your contribution, the money that you put into it, at a 3 to 5% annual interest rate, tax-free on average. And you're able to borrow against it and still have your money growing, meaning it's growing at 3 to 5. I would borrow and pay 2 to 3% interest cost to borrow, still earn the 3 to 5, and then go invest that money I've borrowed to either pay off debt or go invest in things that cash flow. So Griffin is asking, can you talk about how to borrow out of the sacred account? Yes. So Griffin, when you're borrowing from the sacred account, that's something you can do from your portal on Guardian. So you can just go right in there and take a loan. You can either have them mail you a check or wire you the money to your bank account. And the thing that you want to look at is when you borrow, you're only borrowing to pay off debt or invest, right? So if I'm borrowing to pay off debt, let's say I've got $1,000 on a credit card that I want to pay off. I would be borrowing $1,000 from my sacred accounts, paying off the credit card, which is maybe 10 or 15 or 20% interest. And let's say that I was paying $100 a month on that credit card. That $100, I don't have to pay to the credit card anymore because I've paid it off, right? The credit card's gone. I don't owe the money anymore. But I would take that $100 and I would pay my sacred account back. I essentially took a loan from the Bank of Jerry and I'm paying off my debt and then I'm paying myself back instead. So that's the flow with borrowing. The other thing is I could borrow to invest. Okay. I just did this week. So borrowing to invest, you're going to take a bigger chunk. It's going to be 50,000 or 100,000, whatever your number is. You've got to have that in your account. You're going to borrow from it and buy a real estate deal or lend for a real estate deal or something that pays you monthly passive income. Okay. And there's a reason why, for me, I don't do property. Like I'm not an owner of property. I'm not a landlord because that's not passive. Right? I like loaning money just like the bank does against properties. They'll pay me interest. I've never got to go fix the toilet. The tenant's never going to call me. It's truly passive income. There's a reason why when you go to the bank and you tell them you're buying a house or a real estate deal, they don't want to be your partner. They just want to loan you the money. because they don't want to be involved. They just want the income. I'm the same way. So I'm going to take the money from my sacred account. I'm going to loan it out for a deal. That deal is going to pay me 8 or 10 or 12%. That deal is going to pay me every month. So the money that I'm getting every month, I'm paying that back to my sacred account. Okay, just on automatic. It's already going to go back, and I'm going to save up until I've got enough for the next one. So I hope that that answers that question, Griffin. Let me know if there's more to that that you wanted to know. Let me see if we got any more comments here. Sign here says, so you keep the money. Yeah, so I think he's talking about the sacred account. So the purpose of the sacred account, when I'm buying back my debt, I'm keeping the money now. I'm not having to pay interest to an institution. Okay, a lot of us could save more. Let me know if you agree with this. A lot of us could save more were it not for having to pay interest to banks and giving money to the IRS, giving money to Wall Street, paying interest on our car, paying interest on the credit card, paying interest on the student loan. Like by the time we do all that, there's nothing left, right? So the idea of the sacred account is I'm getting rid of all of those institutions and taking them out of my life so that I have all of my income. Okay, the wealthy don't have they don't pay the IRS, they don't pay interest to banks, they are the bank. I've got to mimic that same thing. So that's the idea behind the sacred account. Let me see if there's any more questions here. Lots of good comments. Thank you guys for joining, by the way. Let me check out Zoom. I don't want to leave Zoom hanging. Zoom comments. Okay, Nano has one. Nano has a comment. He says, would it make more sense for a person to borrow from a sacred account to do a real estate deal using a HELOC on the place he'll live on his first deal? That's a little bit complex, but Nano, I'll go ahead and answer that. So Nano is saying, let's say you're going to buy a home. Let's say I'm going to buy a house. Most people will buy a house, they'll use a mortgage, right? Now, the average person, they're going to put as little money down as they can on the house just because that's what we're taught is the right thing, even though it's a terrible idea. But what Nano is saying is, could the person borrow from the sacred account for their down payment and use that as the down payment to buy the house? Great idea. I would definitely do that. So if you have the money in your sacred account, that means it's still going to grow while you use it to buy the house, right? So if I take cash from a bank and I spend that on a down payment for a house, that cash is gone. I will never see it again, right? Versus if I borrow from my sacred account, I can use the money, but my cash still grows while I'm doing the house thing. So I see the future value of that money growing because I'm not losing it. It's still there. So I definitely would do that. And that could be like the first deal. Nano, these are a little complex. These probably are not things we'll answer online tonight because I don't want to confuse people. Griffin's got another question. He says, the only part that I miss on understanding the concept of save, borrow, then you pay something back. What does it do for you and how does it positively affect you? Let me read that again. The part that I miss on understanding the concept of save, borrow, and then pay something back. What does it do for you and how does it? So Griffin, basically like with, for example, with debt, you're keeping the future value of the money working, kind of like I just said. So if I have that $1,000 credit card, if I take cash and I pay off that credit card, I've eliminated the payment, which is good. I've eliminated the interest, which is good. I've gotten rid of the debt, which is good, but I don't have my $1,000 anymore. That $1,000 is gone. I'll never see the $1,000 again. So by using the sacred account, I'm going to borrow from the sacred account. I still eliminate the debt. I still get rid of the interest. I still get rid of the payment, and I have my $1,000 still. My $1,000 is still working. Now I'm going to pay myself back because that's the same function as saving. It's a VIA. Griffin will know what that means. It's a VIA. It does the same exact thing. Saving money, paying myself back, same thing, different terminology for the same result. So I'm basically just accumulating now by paying my loan back. If I free up that payment from the debt that I've paid off, I'm going to have to put that money somewhere, right? We can agree on that. So if I pay off the debt, I don't owe the $100. That $100 is going to go somewhere. It could go in my bank or it could go in my sacred account. If it goes in my bank, it does absolutely nothing for me. If it goes in my sacred account, it pays my loan back, it reduces my interest, and I'm able to then pull it right back out again on the fly when I need to. So I hope that that makes more sense. Let me know if you need any more clarification, Griffin. Exactly what Jose says. He totally gets it. My man, Jose. Um, good. I don't think I see any other questions. Let me check Zoom one more time and see if there's any other questions here that we have. No, I don't think I see any more questions here. Good. Let me just check Instagram. Keon Collins, you play Fortnite. I don't play Fortnite. I'm not into video games. I've never really had that interest. Nothing wrong with it. If you like that, that's cool. I've just never been into video games. Cool. I don't see any more questions on Instagram. I don't see any more on Facebook. Good, guys. So we'll go ahead and wrap up for tonight then. So this ends our series on taboo money topics, controversial money topics. We'll be on a different one next week. I'm excited for it. If you guys have questions still, hit me up in the direct message. If you're on Instagram, DM me. If you're on Facebook, DM me. What's the headset for? So these are to cancel noise. It gets rid of the echo. So it makes it easier for you guys to listen to. On Instagram, you don't experience that because it's not linked to that, but it's for Zoom and my computer system. Um, anyways, guys, we're going to wrap up here. If you guys have questions, hit me up in the direct messages. If you watched this tonight and this helped you, what I want to do is I want to give you some more help. So if you go to membership.jerryfetta.com, that is one of my websites. It's membership.jerryfetta.com. You can actually apply and get a free 14-day membership to my online university. It's called Wealth Dynamics University. And what it does is it gives you the truth about money. All of this stuff that I talked about tonight, we're really just scratching the surface of what's out there for finances, right? We've got to keep in mind finances and money. It's been around for thousands of years. So there's so much information. But in this big sea of information, what we've done with this course is we took out like the concept of the needle in the haystack. We found the needles. We said, these are the things you need to know. Here's the order you need to know them in. And that's what I want to give you access to. So if you want a free 14-day trial to that, go to membership.jerryfetta.com and you can sign up, get a free 14-day trial. If you like it, you can keep it. I think it's like $60 a month or something really cheap like that. If you don't like it, that's okay. It's a 14-day trial. It's not the end of the world. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'll be back again next Friday, same time with a new topic, and I'll talk to y'all next week. All right, Facebook. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody. I'll talk to you next time.